Now that we know how to bring still images in, as well as how to work with them in a sequence, let's take it a step further. Now, to be honest, it probably isn't too often that you'll just stick a static image into your sequence. Most of the time, you're going to add at least a little movement to the image, usually in the form of a pan or a zoom. And if you're working with high-quality stills, you're going to have a lot of room to do these pan and zooms. Let's take a look at how to do this very common maneuver. I have a still image here in the 9.2 bin of Doug standing in his shop, and I'd like to place it over this interview here where Doug is talking about his job. So I'm just going to drag this down and place it over the entire soundbite here. And right now, static image, and we're also only seeing a part of it. So we're probably seeing just this much of it. And the reason for that is that we didn't choose the scale to frame size when we imported the image. So I've got the full resolution to work with. Specifically, we come down here and we can see that it's 3264 by 2448. So any panning and zooming that we do will not degrade the quality of the photograph at all. All right, so I'm going to click on the image in the timeline and then come up to Effect Controls. And then I'm going to come down and twirl down the disclosure triangle next to Motion. The two parameters in here that we're going to work with during our zoom are Scale and Position. So we've already talked about keyframes with audio, and they are really similar when you're dealing with picture. So I'm just going to come to the very beginning of the clip here, and notice that the playhead here and the playhead here are linked. And I'm just going to give myself a little bit more room here. And then I'm going to set keyframes for both scale and position. So the way I do that is I actually just park where I want to set my first set of keyframes and then press this stopwatch here. Scale and position. And you'll see that two keyframes were put here at the very beginning of the sequence. And I'm going to click on the scale one, and I'm going to use this value shuttle to zoom out, maybe to about right there. And if I want to use these value shuttles to go back and forth with the X and Y axis, I can. Or I can actually just double click on the image here, and this will allow me to move it around as a wireframe. So I think I will start the image out about right there. And then I'm just going to come a little bit downstream here, maybe about right there, and I'm going to set two new keyframes. Now you can actually physically set the keyframes by just clicking right here, or let me undo that. You can actually just make a change. For example, I'll just increase my scaling, like so, and you'll see that the keyframe was automatically made for me. And as I drag this around, you can see that the position keyframe is created as well. So maybe I'll just increase just a little bit more as we focus on Doug doing his job. All right, so now I have two sets of keyframes in two different parameters. I'm just going to play it to see how I like it.
I think what we do here and what we try to do is to allow ourselves to explore some of our creative freedoms, and I think that's a big help.
And then if I want to move the keyframes to the left and the right to affect the speed of my zoom, I can. So right now the entire zoom is happening from here to here. If I want that to happen faster, I can just lasso both of those and drag them over to the left. And now the entire zoom is going to happen more quickly.
I think what we do here and what we try to do is to...
And if I want to really slow that down, I can drag further to the right. And I'll just play this so you can see the speed here.
allow ourselves to explore some of our creative freedoms.
And then one other thing I can do is control how the motion approaches and leaves the keyframes and how smooth it is. So I can just right-click right here on the keyframe and choose temporal interpolation. And right now it's on linear. If I choose, for example, Bezier, I can reach into the image here. I'm going to go ahead and just pop to those keyframes. I can double-click on the image and I can grab this line here. The direction handles kind of come off from the point. And maybe I want it to just swoop a little bit more. And I'm just going to play to see how that looks.
Freedoms, and I think that's a big help when you look at it from an...
All right, I think my zoom is slow enough that I can't really tell too much of a difference. If I drag these over to the left and maybe also make these keyframes Bezier, like so. Let's see what that looks like.
I think what we do here and what we try to do is to...
All right, so that was probably a lot more obvious about that swooping motion. You probably would want to back off of that a little bit or go back to linear. All right, so this could probably use a little tweaking, but hopefully I've laid the general idea out pretty well. You're just going to select which parameters you would like to keyframe, and then go ahead and keyframe them either through these values here or by just clicking and dragging in that frame. So with very little effort, we've added motion to a static image, which provides depth and context for the project.